Cool. Okay. So thanks for jumping on this call with me, Jess. Appreciate
Thank
you
you very much for
taking
having me.
out of your day with your family in lockdown to be on this with me. And
Yeah,
congratulations, you've just got the results at Knight Frank, haven't you? The top billing female in the company.
I am indeed. Yeah. It was very nice. I think, to be honest, probably slightly more proud that I was kind of up there with um, the male partners of Knight Frank who've been doing it for a very long time and in the super prime market. And I was sort of, up there with them. So I think that was, more of an accomplishment, to be honest.
That's amazing. Well done. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Right. So for those who might not know you or don't have the pleasure of knowing you, would you give us a bit of background on you, maybe how you got started, what you do, who
Yeah,
you
of
are, your
course. So
position?
my dad's a developer, and I'd kind of always grown up around property, even though it wasn't sort of something I might necessarily go into straight away. And after university, I started working for an estate agency that he knew, like a boutique agency in Chelsea. Really liked it,
Was it a one office
and
company?
started there as a negotiator. Pardon?
Was it a one office company or was there a few?
No, they had 8 offices in London.
Okay.
Yeah. And or that was sort of going into Surrey as well. And was working there as a negotiator, really, really enjoying it. But I knew that I just wanted to work for Knight Frank. That was the company I wanted to work for.
Yeah.
And someone that I'd worked with previously, when I was an admin in this estate agency, was working at Knight Frank, and she said, "There's an admin role in my office in Kensington. Come and get your foot in the door." And I thought, you know what, that's the company I want to work for. That's what I'm going to do. So went as an admin. I was an awful admin. One of my colleagues and good friends, Nick, says I was the worst admin he's ever had, just because I didn't like being told what to do.
Yeah.
But then 9 months later, the head of the St John's Wood office gave me an opportunity to join the sales team there, and I worked there for 2.5 years in the core market up to 3.5 million, which was an amazing experience to learn and cut my teeth and grow. It was fantastic. And then in September 2018, I've been there ever since.
Nice. Okay. When was that? Sorry. When did you start? How long have you been a broker for?
About 4.5 years.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, so January 2016 is when I started.
I personally don't consider that a long time, yet you've achieved so much in such a short space of time. To be top billing female.
Yeah, I suppose it is actually quite short.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's more experienced people there than you, yet you've just overtaken them all.
Yeah, I mean, I think working in St John's Wood, I was surrounded by some very good agents that I learned an awful lot from. And I worked, 6 or 7 days a week for 2 years solid without a break. And, I live and breathe property in my job. And particularly those first 2 years, I didn't know it. I completely failed in my first 6 months. I remember crying, we called it the back or the stationery cupboard, which is actually a huge room. But, crying in there because it wasn't going right and I couldn't quite get it. And then I was fortunate enough to have Orly Lehman, who now runs the Belsize Park office, who sat in our team for 3 months because she was on a restricted covenant with her old company. And, she sat with me. And then I just think I, built my knowledge, my confidence grew, and it just went off from there. But it was a really, really hard slog at the beginning. There's no getting away from that.
Likewise.
Still is.
And you mentioned there were some experienced agents in your office in St John's Wood. Anybody in particular that you'd like to maybe mention who you admire, who you worked alongside when you were there?
Yeah, so Annabelle Karageorgis, who was the youngest partner at Knight Frank when she was here and worked, in the prime team there. She was amazing. I learned an awful lot from her, and it was really nice to have a really strong female to look up to. So I was really fortunate in that manner. And then James Simpson, who ran the office there, or runs the office still, was a very, very good mentor and very good manager. And then we had it was kind of actually just as I was leaving that, just as I joined, these people were moving on from the office. But one was Daniel Daggers, who worked in the prime team there and then moved off to sort of be in the super prime team at Knight Frank. And yeah, you know, he would still come into the office and be around, and was really, really keen, and always has been, and I know he still is, keen on, you know, giving advice to young brokers coming up, whether it be at Knight Frank and Independent, or, you know, anywhere else.
My next question is, why do you have Christmas lights when it's almost summer?
I don't actually know. So this is, my parents call it the African hut, and my dad loves entertaining and getting things like, I don't know, set up. So I think he likes having a little party in here that they go like all the way around.
That's so cool. I love where you live. It
Yeah.
looks amazing. I've always said that to you. How long
quite
did
easily.
it take you?
Only about an hour and a half when there's traffic on a Friday night, but normally, you know, an hour and 15 minutes. So it's
That's
not bad at all.
That's not
No.
bad. Okay.
Nice and green where you are as well, though.
Yeah, I feel so lucky right now with the lockdown, being able to have a garden.
I know.
Like this.
I know. I think we just really have to be. I must admit, a couple of days ago, I was feeling, you know, a bit down about things. Just sort of third week into lockdown, and I really miss working sort of as we're used to working. But you know, you have to be incredibly grateful. We're both sat outside here. It's, you know, amazing,
lovely weather,
green, lush green around us, nice weather. Our families are well and safe, and so we're in a very, very fortunate position, and we can't forget that at this moment in time.
I agree, 100%. How are you coping with business and the lockdown? Are you still doing deals, getting offers?
Yes, just. It's been a really amazing transition, how quickly we've all had to do it to work as virtually as we are.
Yeah.
I mean, it was always an option beforehand to do FaceTime viewings or to send videos to people, and you know, our photographers that would take photos actually offer, you know, making videos as a service, but it was never something we just took up. We, you know, you stick to what you know, don't you? And the moment that we couldn't have that, we sort of ran around taking videos of all of our properties just on our iPhones. But the reception that we've had from being able to show these videos has been amazing. And you know, we in Kensington, my wonderful colleague Jack Thomas agreed a property last week just from one of these video viewings, which is amazing news. And I think, you know, a couple of other offices have done the same as well already. And you know, these people, they definitely knew the area, they knew Kensington extremely well, they knew what they wanted to buy, and that video was enough to give them an insight. And I don't know if you know, someone landing straight into London then, or you know, has never been to Kensington before, they're not going to buy a property off a video on that basis. But I think it will be great for people that we're working with who maybe don't know exactly what they're looking for, to help refine it a bit further, so that once we can come out of this, you know, they've got a much shorter list of things they need to go to. And people who do really have needs, who for whatever reason, I mean, particularly in the rental market at the moment, there are a lot of people that are needing to move quickly, and you know, the videos are working extremely well to enable them to move in line with, you know, government restrictions, not being able to, you know, move things, or you know, keeping your 2-meter distance.
Is that for property in London? Rentals, they're looking to move to new properties in London?
Yeah, so we've had quite a few people who maybe who want a garden or a little bit of outside space whilst they're in lockdown in London, or they need a bit more space. And then there are also some people who are looking to move like slightly further out into Surrey, or you know, slightly further out of London.
Fair play.
Have you been doing any video viewings?
I have got a landlord or two to take videos of their properties so that I can send it to prospective tenants. Yes.
Yeah.
I haven't gone myself.
Yeah.
My dad's
Yeah.
asthmatic as well, so I'm being quite careful with who I come into
Yeah.
contact.
Yeah. No, you've got to be, definitely.
What do you think? How do you know if someone's a good broker, would you say?
How do you know if they're a good broker?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a really, really social, personable job. And for me, the first thing is I think you've got to feel comfortable with them, and you've got to warm to them and want to spend time with them. And I think, you know, that's the initial thing, is kind of building up that trust. So, you know, even for me, just as an agent working with someone else, I mean, I know when, you know, well, I said to you the other day, you're the only person that I've sort of spoken to on Instagram yet that I've met so far. And I think you need to have that feeling of, you know, being comfortable, and yeah, the beginnings of knowing you would be able to establish trust with that person. And then, you know, behind that, you need to be able to be an advisor. You need to be astute and see what's going on with the market. You definitely need to be relentless. I mean, that's one of the, you know, key things that I've learned. But you need to be, so I think the initial thing is I need to feel comfortable with that person. I'm going to have to spend a lot of time with them. I want to feel comfortable, and they need to be empathetic to understand what the person in front of them, what their needs are, and, you know, read their body language, because not, you know, people don't say everything straight away. You need to be able to read and understand them before they open up to you.
So true. I agree with you completely there. And you mentioned something really interesting, which was you need to be an advisor. And I want to ask you, I was going to ask you this later, but you brought it up. What's the difference between a broker or agent and an advisor?
You know, an agent is, I think, very, very salesy, and you're just very short term. You know, your short term goal is to do the deal, get that fee, put it in your pocket. You know, that's not what an advisor is. Ultimately, you know, we want to be there from the moment that, you know, when I started my career, someone who was maybe buying their first property and their home to be in with their girlfriend or boyfriend, who then grows to move on to buy their family house, and then maybe move on to buy another family home, but at the same time then want to diversify and buy some rental investments and maybe a commercial space for their business. And an advisor is someone that will, you know, they will seek my help on each one of those stages of their life. And I think you will be there if, you know, you do the role well, you are the advisor, and you have that trust and that empathy with them. You will be there from that very first moment, hopefully all the way through their property career, whatever that might be. That might be, you know, buying one other flat for their child, or even just selling their home 30 years, you know, down the line. But it's that longevity, and, you know, you're not just in it for that fee right there and then. You know, you might even be telling them not to do a deal at certain points, and that's where, you know, they're coming to you for you to guide them through what is generally people's, you know, biggest asset they will ever own in their life, whether that's one or multiple properties.
That's really interesting. I don't think I could have put it better myself, really. And I like how you said that they come back to you and
Yeah.
you see a long-term or 10-year relationship, shall I say, rather than one deal. I think that,
yeah, exactly.
if you could say it in one sentence, I think that's probably how I'd say it too.
Yeah.
Is that it's a difference between an agent would want to get a deal, whereas an advisor would want a 10-year or longer relationship with that one client or buyer. I was going to say an agent or an estate agent would see a buyer not as a client, only the vendor as a client, or the
Yeah,
landlord as a client, and then treat a tenant or
exactly.
buyer as somebody just a duty of care to. That's it.
Exactly. And I think, you know, it's really important to say actually that you do need to be given that same sort of quality of advice and you know, the start of the prospect of building that relationship with, you know, everyone that you meet. You know, you're right, not just your immediate client right there and then, because I've the last week was talking to someone who, you know, I'd met in my first few days in St John's Wood, who potentially wanted to sell their property, and they never actually ended up coming to the market, and they're still there now. But over the last couple of years, he's returned to me each time for sort of my advice on potentially other business matters, you know, seeking help, and sort of, even though I'm not in St John's Wood anymore, seeking my advice on what's going on. And
how does that feel?
We've never, yeah, it feels wonderful. Feel quite strongly that I'll, you know, remain in this person's life for a while to come. And we've not done a deal together yet. There's never been, you know, fees banked in any way kind of direction, but that's over, you know, 5 years now that I think we've been kind of then working on 3 different areas of potential business, just from a couple of meetings, you know, a few years ago.
Nice. I know that's nice when somebody comes back to you as well. My next question was, I was going to say, what's the most expensive property you've sold? But let me rephrase that. What's the most expensive asset you've advised on the sale of?
Advised on the sale of,
sold.
Okay, yeah, sold. 12.4 million pounds has been the largest sale that I've done, which was, it was a really lovely experience, because it was an off-market sale, and the family had been there for a very, very long time. It was a very, very emotional sale, and you know, I almost it's even making me feel a bit emotional now. On the day of completion, you know, I remember walking up to the house, and it was an incredibly emotional time. Yeah, and you know, that's one of the reasons why stop it. But you know, that's one of the reasons I love doing what I do, because you get so personally connected with so many people at such crucial stages in their lives, and they'll never, you know, forget you for that. And the moment when someone, I mean, that was obviously very sort of gut-wrenching and sad, but on the other side, when it's very happy, and someone's a family that you've, you know, moved into a home, and you know, you sit down and you have tea with them in their new sitting room, and the kids are running around and drawing, and you know, asking Jessica, how are you? You know, that is one of, I mean, there's no better feeling than that, when you've helped them get that.
Was the £12.4 million deal different to, or harder work than, say, your average maybe £1 million or £500,000 deal?
No, it was probably a lot more straightforward. I think one of the most stressful and difficult deals that I've done was actually when I was in St John's Wood, and I think the fee, because it was with a split agent, and it was about £400,000. I think my fee was just under £3,000, and it was on a short lease. That was, without a doubt, one of the trickiest, most stressful deals that I've done.
So just for our listeners who might not know what a split is, because they might not come from an agency background,
Yeah, sorry.
That basically means that you represented either the buyer or seller, and the other agent represented the opposition party, and you split the fee 50-50, is that right?
In this case, it was 50-50, yeah.
Perfect, but it can vary, can't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think the industry is going more in that direction of splitting fees and agents working together?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, after this whole crazy situation that we're in now, you know, the slogan is "We're better." You know, we're all in this together, which is cliched High School Musical, but it's true. And I don't think ever have we, you know, agency is a very competitive business, and you know, you have people that you will get on with well and people that you'll always be extremely competitive with, and you're always on opposing sides. We are now all on the same side and at the same point, from your vendors, your landlords, your buyers, your tenants, at whatever scale of price spectrum they're on. You know, we are all experiencing coronavirus and we're all being locked down, and you know, it's that lack of one is really missing, and everyone I've spoken to just can't wait to get back together, whether it's like sit in a beer garden or go to the supermarket without having to stand 2 meters away and just going for a coffee. Everyone, I think, is going to realize that we are completely social creatures and you are happier when you're together. And I know for one, I, you know, want to work with everyone,
I do.
you know, if I can, if it's going to be the right thing for, if it's going to be the right thing for my client, if it's going to be the right thing for my buyer, I'll be happy to work with anyone. And surely we should all be happy to just be able to be here and, you know, work together.
Has it become more common though for you to work with other agents rather than when you first started in this industry?
I think potentially yes. When I was in St John's Wood, I think it was more standard there, because you did have a lot more sort of one-man band agents or you know, buying agents going around there. That was more common there, so it did happen quite a bit. And from what I can gather in you know, the area that I'm in now, it was less common to do splitties and, you know, maybe go to different areas, but that is definitely becoming more of the norm, and, you know, something that we would actively encourage, because ultimately, if, you know, someone else has a buyer that's going to buy your client's house, you know, you're there to help your client, and their end goal is to sell their property. If someone can help me achieve that for my client, then I will gladly give away part of my fee.
Brilliant. So rather than not sell it or sell it later, but for a higher fee, you'd rather sell it now, do a good job for your client and halve what you're earning.
Yeah, and I think, you know, your client wants to know that you're going to be collaborative. I think it's quite, again, going back to the sort of short-sighted and long-sighted, it's quite short-sighted to think, you know, I'll hold out for an extra 0.5% or 1% that I might get in my pocket now, when ultimately, you know, my client will know they can come to me and I'll do everything in my power, even if that means, you know, not meaning I'm getting sort of the full fee that I'm entitled to be able to sell it for them. And then that's also helping you build your relationships with the other you know, the other agents around you, because hopefully, you know, you build up that bit of rapport with someone, and then if they happen to have another buyer or a house, you know, you'd hope that they would come to you you know, before another agent.
So true. I could talk about this point all day, and I'm so interested to see what's going to happen in the industry over the next 5 to 10 years.
Do you work with, do you have agents in particular that you would go to first for a split com?
Well, you know, when it comes to your patch, I go to you.
Good, that's the answer I was looking for.
Or any property at Knight Frank, for that matter, you know that. Yeah, I do. I have a WhatsApp group as well for lettings in central London. I think every agent, every company in Mayfair is in that group, apart from one, not because of a bad reason, just because nothing's come up where we could do something together as of yet. And everybody in that group I have some sort of relationship with. And I also have broadcast lists as well. with agents in areas. So I have like a Mayfair broadcast list, Kensington, Knightsbridge, Chelsea.
And what's the broadcast list? Can
On
you
WhatsApp, you can have
explain
a
that?
broadcast list with agents in that area. So if I ever get a property for sale or an inquiry for that area, I can just broadcast that in one go to all of those agents, and I won't forget to message them.
Ah, okay. One thing I am learning in this time is how much of a tech phobe I am, and I don't know anything. This is my second Zoom call that I've managed to get to work, and I really do need to have a few more lessons to get my, technology literacy up there.
I am so grateful that we have this tech today during what we're going through, because if we didn't, we would be screwed. I wouldn't be able to have this chat with you and then later post it on Instagram. We wouldn't be
it's amazing.
Send videos to prospective buyers and tenants. I'm so grateful to tech.
Have you found it's so nice to be able to talk to your clients like this? And I've got much closer from, having a video chat that I would never have done previously. I think not maybe because I would have been opposed to it, but I just think because it wasn't the norm. Unless you're sort of a really good friend, I'm not really kind of like a FaceTimer or anything. And now it's just nice to be able to build up the relationship like that.
I agree. And I think it's something we should all get comfortable with. For instance, I hope this isn't going off topic and people can still relate this to what we're talking about, but I've got a relative who's a teacher, and I have been telling her for ages to the way to grow her business is to almost go international, get on social media, get on Instagram, start putting out valuable content, not just for children, because she teaches primary school age, but for parents, so they can teach their kids tips and tricks on how their kids can remember times tables, for instance, because she's good like that. And she did teach me as well.
Yeah.
Now this has happened, she's having to do the things that I advised her to do maybe 6 months ago. And she was like, yeah. And, a lot of people, especially relatives, because they have that relationship with you, are confident enough to say, oh, you're full of yourself. You love yourself enough to be able to do videos of yourself. We have no choice. You have to do shit right now more than ever. So now she's finding herself doing Skype tutoring with her kids, as in the ones she teaches. And she's having to speak to parents on how best to teach a certain course, because parents are now having to teach their kids from home.
To do it, yeah, I know.
So
it's interesting. My housemate is also a teacher, and she has now built an Instagram profile just to do this, and she teaches GCSE kids, who obviously most of them have Instagram. And it's been an amazing way. Imagine previously if you suddenly had weeks off. I mean, I know it's a bit different because we don't know what it's like being a teenager in lockdown, but when you were a teenager, if you were told school's cancelled or you don't need to do your GCSEs, and then your teacher was telling you to do stuff, I'm sure you would literally be like, see ya.
Yeah.
But his Instagram is so relatable. I think it's been amazing that they're able to do that. We wouldn't have had that when we were at school.
And tell your flatmate to do a online course. Tell him or her to create an online course whereby parents can buy it for their kids, play it, and leave them to learn for an hour or so in their room.
Okay, interesting.
Tell him or her to do that.
Yeah.
And also, what blows my mind is that you can connect for free with anybody anywhere in the world. So you can teach kids on a Zoom call English. Kids in China, for instance, English. Not even kids, adults. Anybody who wants to learn English. You can promote and market yourself to do whatever it is you do, whether it be selling property, teaching a language, or teaching somebody how to play golf, just providing value over the internet for free. It blows my mind.
I know. It's amazing. It's amazing that you can reach out to, you know, anyone. And I think that's been something that's been really great during this experience as well, as I haven't you know, been doing social media for as, you know, long as you have, for example, and you were amazing. I mean, I remember when we first met, we'd been exchanging a few like tips or congratulations on Instagram, and you're like, anyone want to come to this like learning session there? And I was like, I do. And, you know, came along, and we'd never met before, and that is like fantastic. And I've since connected with you know, a number of people that I haven't met yet, but just talking about, you know, property and how we're getting through like daily hurdles and things. And sometimes it's nice to have a different perspective because,
We did meet before that.
you know, for me, I work for a large corporate, and, you know, it can be quite easy to have like that one perspective looking down on you. So it's really nice to speak to people from different places all over the world, and, you know, seeing their different ways of doing business and how you can learn from each other, I suppose.
100% agree. Didn't we do a viewing together? Isn't that how we met?
Oh no, we did do a viewing together. We did.
Either court.
A sales viewing. Right at the beginning of when I was in Kensington.
Yeah.
But then you popped up on Instagram, and we didn't make the or no, we did follow each other on Instagram, but then you then set up by yourself, and it all
I remember
changed.
now. Were you following me on Instagram, and I think you said it on the viewing.
Potentially, I think so.
But I was going to ask you, how have you got your business to where it is now? And I know you don't own your own business, but my old manager, who I have a lot of respect for, in a big corporate company I used to work at, said to me, see it as your own business. You know, we've given you a desk, a phone, a computer. You know, here's the properties, go and let them. And I always saw it as my own business, really. And that's why I say it like this, you know, how have you got your business, because you are a business, to where it is now? I know the answer to this, and I can see it from our chat, why, but for our listeners who might not have clocked on.
I agree with you. I think you need to see it as your own business. You know, you're an entrepreneur, you're promoting like yourself and your skills, but also it's, you know, we completely run our own day in terms of, you know, how many viewings do I book in during the day, how many people do I go and meet, and there's no one telling me that I need to sit at my desk and do that. And, you know, you can have you know, if you have 3 months of being incredibly productive, the following 3 months you see all of the results of that. And I think you need to kind of set your own personal goals to, you know, lay those out, and that is how you will drive yourself. So that's how, you know, exactly as I've always seen it. And for me, the key thing that I think to being you know, successful, whatever way people might perceive successful as being, is being relentless. And that's in, you know, everything in your, because you get knocked down a lot, you know, a deal might fall out and you've got to pick yourself right back up again and go out, and you might have just lost, you know, a big fee to your year, or it might have been something, you know, a personal neg bonus or something coming to you, and you've just got to get back out, make those phone calls and go out and do it all over again. And it's a very long process from the time that you start your journey with someone to when they actually, you know, might purchase or rent something. And you've just got to, you know, keep going. And on top of that, you need to do it with a smile on your face and be, you know, a very, going back to the sort of what makes a good agent, you know, trusting, empathetic person. So I think it's that sort of package of actually being a good, nice human being that loves getting on with people and loves seeing other people, with that relentlessness that means you will keep going. And that together is what I think will make you go a long way.
I love that.
What were you going to say?
Before my next question, I'd like to say that, again, this lady was a director in one of my previous companies, who I, again, have massive respect but a lot of love for as well, and I still am in touch with her to this day. She helped me so much. and I feel like she is actually my foundation. She said to me when I had a fall through and I was quite annoyed about it, she said to me that, oh, the reason you're annoyed is because you have nothing else in your pipeline, which is bad. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. As in,
What she's saying is, if you had other deals in your pipeline that would replace that fee, you wouldn't be annoyed with the fall through.
I mean, I think it would like mitigate how annoyed you are, yes, because you've got other things to fall back on. But ultimately, I think you really have to care about everything, and I've got to be relentless if something doesn't happen to keep going again. But I think I still really need to care about it, and I'd hope that I am affected or upset by something when it falls through, because it means it matters to me, and I put a lot of my time and effort into that. And then because I care about that, I'm then going to go out and hopefully either find my client a new buyer for their house, and then hopefully with these buyers, for whatever reason, find somewhere else to another home to move them to. So I think you do need to care about it still, but it's then, I suppose, easier to care about them if you have other things in your your pipeline. I suppose you're caring less about the financial loss and just more about the what you've been doing for them in your advisor role.
Good. Okay. Would you say it's competitive?
Yes. Definitely.
Okay.
Would you?
Yes, I would. But you're in a completely different market to me, I'd say.
But it's definitely a competitive industry, and that's one of the things I love about it. I'm a competitive person, but I think you need to be very competitive with yourself, and I'm definitely my own worst critic and want to be the best that I can be. But having other people around you definitely helps motivate you and keep you going.
Good. Okay. What would you say is hot in London real estate right now?
I think before coronavirus and lockdown, what I was seeing massively was the family house market. So for me and where I work, that's at kind of between maybe 4 to 7 million, which is quite it's quite a lot of money. But it was I think it's a really interesting sector of the market, because most of those buyers and sort of the family buyers, they're professionals who are obviously doing very well in their career, and they're aspirational. They're moving from their smaller house or their apartment and upgrading their family to a house normally with a garden in Kensington. And it's kind of those aspirational buyers who were reaching for this wonderful family home, that I was finding it really interesting to work with at the time. And I think now that might still be the case, but I think it's going to be outside space. We're in lockdown. People are going to sit there and realize, no matter how nice this brand newly refurbished 3-bedroom flat is, or 1-bedroom flat, if I don't have a little bit of a balcony or somewhere I can stick my head out and just sit in this space, I think people are really going to be questioning what their next move will be. And I think we will see a massive uptick in demand for for even low. I mean, I personally I live in a ground and lower ground floor flat, and I've always really liked lower ground floor flats, because I would much rather have a garden than be on a second floor with no outside space at all. And that's my personal preference. And some people get scared about security issues and things, but I was thinking, if you're going to buy that whole house and your low, they still get in your lower ground floor, if that's sort of the reason why you don't like it. And I think you can generally find very good deals on lower ground floors, and if you're clever with them, they're some of the most amazing flats. And I mean, in Little Venice, where I used to work, the lower ground floor flats there were amazing, straight out onto communal gardens. You'd still have really nice high ceilings, really wide hallways. I loved them. And I'm sure we might see a bit of a resurgence in sort of favour to flats that were maybe perceived as better value because they were less popular, rather than, you know, the traditional sort of first or second floor that might not have access to that outside space.
Which brings me on to my next point, which you kind of mentioned a few things there. What's your vision for the future post-corona?
I hope, as we kind of touched on earlier, we'll be much more collaborative as an industry. I think it's really important that we do all work together and help each other, because ultimately, I think what I would like to see is, I think we've worked extraordinarily well from home, and that means servicing our clients, talking to them, giving them the correct information. Obviously, we can't do viewings at the moment, so that kind of limits our end goal. But a lot of our business that we've done from home. And I think as an industry, we've always, you know, we're massively behind the curve in terms of flexible working from home. And I really hope this will kind of help the industry step up, so that working mothers, for example, you know, coming in at 10 a.m. and leaving at 4 or 5, I don't necessarily think constitutes flexible working. And I don't have children, and I'm, you know, not going to have children anytime soon, but I hope that when I do, I'll be working in an industry that lets or is comfortable with, you know, working from home as much as you can, coming in for you know, viewings on certain days. And obviously, you know, we know, I suppose, if things are important, we will always, you know, be around and be there. And I suppose this is taking it from completely the other side. If you were, say, a mother at home, and sort of the options that you have now. But yeah, I hope it will just make us all more flexible, and then enable, you know, maybe more women to rise up through the business. And also, you know, not forgetting, I've got male colleagues who have kids, and, you know, they say that they don't see them during the week, and they only see them on the weekend because of the times they, you know, get in and stuff. And the nature of our business is we're always on the phone. You know, our clients are, firstly, it's probably the biggest asset that they own. It's incredibly important to them, and they want to talk about it all the time. And secondly, you know, they often have to talk about it after work. So loads of my calls happen, you know, after 7 o'clock at night. And, you know, if the time difference around the world, you know, things are always going on in the evening. So I think hopefully the industry will realize that we can work much more flexibly and much more in line with sort of the new modern way of working that I think lots of other industries have already adopted.
I hope so too. I've already realized that. And yeah, as you say, I hope the industry as a whole realizes that too. And
yeah.
Do you think there's many women in the industry?
There's not enough. There are definitely more on the rental side, on lettings. I'm not sure. I think that's just a historic thing that's happened, that, you know, men initially did sales, and that's the way it's kind of stayed. That's definitely changing. And I don't think there are enough senior women in our industry, and it's going to take a bit of time to get there. But there are definitely some, you know, very good female contemporaries of mine from within Knight Frank and, you know, across the business, not across the business, across the industry, sorry, that will hopefully help us get there.
Well, people like you are going to help women like you get there as well, because you're changing the industry.
Yeah, I hope so.
Now you're giving the men a run for their money, keeping them on their toes, I'm sure.
Trying to.
Number 6 in the company, is that right?
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I've always said that I think women are better leaders than us men, and you're more organized, which is why I think, what I know, women in every company I've been in I was always number two, always. I would never be number one because there was always a female that was better than me because they were always that little bit more organized than me. There's paperwork with letting, so the more deals work you get.
Yeah, I think women, going back to that sort of empathy side of it and, you know, feeling comfortable, you know, sometimes men can be intimidating. I know that's a massive generalization, but, you know, if you imagine if you go up to a property and you meet someone you've never met before, and it's a man, I can imagine it sometimes takes longer for certain people to feel comfortable with them. And again, a massive generalization, but I think women naturally, well, you know, that's why you have your sort of testosterone and your estrogen. You know, estrogen is the more like empathetic feminine side, and testosterone is the like hard-nosed aggressive you know, bulldozery side. And as women, we naturally have more of that, and so naturally those are the sort of traits that come to us very easily. And so I think
your
definitely
maternal as well. You have which I'm sure has something to do with estrogen. I'm not sure. I didn't pay attention.
What did you say? Sorry.
You guys are maternal as well, so you have a natural.
Yeah.
You're born with like a natural leadership inside you. I believe every single woman has this like natural leader inside them, whereas you have to learn it a bit more. Not all men leaders or leaders.
And I think it's also important because when you know, I like to see my colleagues doing well as well. You know, if they're doing well, we're doing well as a team. And I think it's really important that you raise your team up with you. And some men are very good at doing that. And I've definitely seen that throughout my career. But I've probably seen that every female that I've ever worked with has always been good at raising up their colleagues or mentoring younger people or helping them, and in that way. And I think that is really, really key as well to sort of you know, moving forward yourself as a person in your career, but also you know, how you kind of reflect yourself to others.
Nice. I like it. I like that. What do you think could be done better? Sorry, there's a massive bumblebee near me. What do you think?
There's one near me as well. How weird.
Where are you?
So nice sitting outside there in the shade. Just in property in general, what could be done better?
I'd say, yeah, let's keep it to our industry. What do you think could be done better?
Yeah, I think, I mean, one of the things that I don't like, but I understand, is the reputation that estate agents have. And that's when, you know, I go back and I have to use that term estate agent, is that we'll be slimy, sleazy, and, you know, people think we're kind of in it for ourselves. And that's not what I would consider my job role to be. And I wouldn't consider myself an estate agent in that term. But there are some, you know, people who still do project that image in a way. And I think we're really, really, you know, important to a lot of people in their lives and will be throughout their whole life. And we are, you know, a massive part of raising tax for our government. We're a massive part of sort of the day-to-day running of our economy. And I think we need to, you know, all collectively be portraying the right image, that we're there to help everyone and be advising them, and then in return, you know, gain the respect that I think a lot of us deserve.
100%. Collectively, I like that. Together, we can change it.
Yeah, definitely. And we all have to do it to change that perception. And I think it will be, I think will be a much better, stronger and different industry if we all do that.
Couldn't agree more. Thanks for that, Jess. Last question. If you could put a message on a billboard where millions would see it, what would it say? What message would you put out there?
I think I would say pause in big capital letters. with a full stop at the end. Oh,
Sorry.
stung.
Almost.
Don't worry.
Pause.
Yeah, pause. You know, these billboards will always have something going on trying to grab people's attention, and sometimes they just fade into the background. And I think that's something that people don't expect if you tell them to, you know, stop and think, and they're going to wonder why they're being told to pause, what's there. But I think underneath it, really, particularly in light of the situation that we're in now, you know, we do all need to pause and stop and reflect and reassess what is important. And for me, what I've got out of it is that I am extremely lucky that I love what I do and I get to do it every day. But I'm sure there are a lot of people that don't, and they're kind of working to live rather than living to work, if you want to use that expression. And it's really important to, you know, be going through life doing something you love. And I think we need to pause, reflect, assess what's important to us, whether that be in work, in our relationships, and kind of what it is that's our you know, intrinsic motivation. So I hope that would help everyone stop or pause and take time to think about it.
So true. I like that a lot. And it is like one big pause for the world as well at the moment.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
No worries.
It was really fun.
All day, but I don't want to keep you because I know you've got other phone calls.
I do indeed.
That's right. I'll let you get on. Thanks again.
Thanks, Alex.
I'll speak to you soon. Thanks, Jess.